This article is a product of my experiences while working for the Ufcw International Union during a period when I advised the union leadership on how to respond to a series of pension crises, starting in 2000 and continuing today. The article reflects my personal biases as a worker representative and someone who was in the trenches trying to protect plan participants and find solutions to accommodate employers and regulators. And if the audience can filter out some of the natural noise that comes with that role, they might find some value in the story. The premise of this paper is that labor unions have historically played a critical role in the creation and design of the employer-sponsored pension system, beginning with the creation of industry plans in coal and clothing and single employer plans in auto and steel in the post-World War II period. That system has been in decline since 1980. The rolling global financial crises in the millennial decade in fact threatens the solvency and the future of significant parts of that defined benefit system. I believe we're at a tipping point and we can expect it to follow with a period of transformation. The paper argues that labor unions are positioned in a number of strategic sectors of the U.S. economy to renegotiate what I call the pension deal. Moreover, the paper uses the case study method to describe how one major union tried to manage the pension crisis by introducing a hybrid pension plan design. The Ufcw and its predecessor unions have sponsored multi-employer pension plans since the 1950s. The Ufcw pension universe consists of 60 multi-employer plans covering 1.4 million participants, evenly divided between active workers and inactive terminated, vested, and retirees. The industries represented include retail food and food manufacturing, and consist of low and moderate wage workers with a large part-time component. Current pension benefits paid to retirees average about $500 per month. Long-tenured workers often retire with benefits between $1,000 and $2,000 a month. Multi-employer plans are unique in that they are jointly governed by labor management representatives. The plans are regulated by ERISA and have historically been covered by special rules that reflect their foundation in collective bargaining. Similar to public sector plans, multi-employer plans use expected return funding assumptions that have been criticized by financial economists for mispricing the actual pension costs. Preceding the financial crises of the 2000s, a number of multi-employer plans made a series of near-fatal decisions. Much of the pension community became mesmerized by stock market boom of the 1990s, losing sight of potential investment risks of asset drawdowns. The market euphoria further blinded many plans with regard to contribution funding discipline by agreeing to contribution holidays. At the same time, poorly conceived government regulations driven by perverse tax policy puts limits on employer contributions and incentivizes plans to improve benefits to meet tax deductibility limits for contributions. When the financial storm hit in 2000 and again in 2008, the asset drawdowns were dramatic, with the average plan sustaining back-to-back 30 percentage point declines in funding. The Ufcw responded aggressively to these events by reevaluating investment policy and risk management and implementing funding policies that triggered automatic adjustments in benefits and contributions. In fact, some of the Ufcw bargained funding concepts were later adopted within the framework of pension reform in the Pension Protection Act in 2006. PPA was a game changer, forcing a new funding discipline on plan trustees and stakeholders. Before, I think I'm slightly ahead of myself here. Before PPA was legislated, the Ufcw initiated an internal review of its pension system, including a solvency study of each plan. Staff also evaluated other factors confronting employers, like accounting and credit rating scrutiny that was fostering competitive disadvantages for union employers. Most importantly, the union was asking the most difficult question: were the plans financially and politically sustainable? This level of introspection promoted objective analysis and new insights that allowed the union to better understand the inner workings of their pension plans and why they had become financially vulnerable. For the first time, the union began to understand the financial consequences of mature pension plans, including the costs of changing demographics, the impact of growing negative cash flows, plan leverage as measured by contributions versus assets, and grasping the dangers of investment risk. These insights led the union on a search for a new pension delivery system. Fortunately, the Ufcw had a history of pension innovation, which offered guidance and inspiration. But intellectual influences from the outside were very important. First, Keith Ambachshire offered new pension frameworks and paradigms modeled off the Canadian, Dutch, and Danish pension systems. These have offered important insights on how to better understand and reform the Ufcw system. And at the same time, Don Furst and Mercer, Don, who's actually in the audience today and is speaking later, introduced the retirement share plan that captured the union's imagination. As a result of this process, the union rejected the traditional DB model as well as the cash balance and DC models, and sought hybrid plans that could meet the following goals. And the goals I'll list out for you are: provide for stable employer contributions, provide for a high probability of the plan remaining fully funded, at the same time pay adequate benefits and lifetime annuities, share and manage investment risk, fairly priced benefits, and establish a rules-based governance model. After much deliberation and modeling, the Ufcw version of the variable plan was conceived. It was designed as a greater of a floor DB benefit and a variable DC benefit. The floor DB benefit was fixed at a level determined by the bargaining parties. The cost of the floor benefit would be reevaluated periodically to adjust for demographic changes. The variable benefit was a function of investment return with the flexibility to rise and fall. The final accrued benefit could not be less than the floor benefit. All non-investment risks were pooled, and all assets were pooled and professionally invested. Benefits were expected to be paid in lifetime annuities. The variable benefit meets the definitely determinable rules of ERISA through a system of units and unit values, in contrast to earned benefit accruals. Workers earn units that have values that both increase and decline. Thus, the plan is self-adjusting. The floor DB benefit never increases. This variable plan has incorporated several additional levels of risk mitigation beyond its basic plan design. First, the plan utilizes a floor interest rate that discounts floor benefit liabilities and benchmarks the variable benefit performance with an interest rate substantially lower than the expected return rates, but somewhat higher than risk-free rates. We anticipate a rate of 4.5% to 5% would be used, which we determined to be the median historic corporate interest rate for the last 100 years. The lower discount rate of the plan allows for the investment strategy, an investment strategy that is diversified but characterized by a strong LDI focus, low volatility, low risk exposures to public equities, and very low asset drawdown exposure, and thus a high probability of success. The plan would implement a rules-based approach to surplus management, determining when surpluses are applied to benefit increases or allocated to reserve margins. Finally, all retiree benefits are immediately immunized or annuitized when the retiree goes into payment status, inoculating the pension balance sheet from any asset-liability mismatch. The Ufcw's variable plan was well received and embraced within the union and drew respect from employers for its ingenuity and the fact that it was conceived to be employer-friendly. The union's proactive planning and solution-based approach to the pension crisis was rewarded in 2011 when Kroger engaged the Ufcw in a major transaction to merge 4 red zone plans covering 180,000 participants and pre-fund $1 billion of unfunded legacy costs. However, to the union's chagrin, the variable plan was not adopted. Kroger refused to absorb the extra front-end cost of the variable plan's lower interest rate assumptions, but at the same time was comfortable with the potential risk of a traditional DB plan because of the company's strong cash flow and balance sheet. In the meantime, the Ufcw's variable plan enjoyed some popularity in the public policy arena and gained interest with other unions. A number of union plans, both multi-employer and single-employer, adopted the variable plan design since 2012. A state public sector fund is scheduled to implement the variable plan for new hires in 2015. Finally, the NCCMP Retirement Security Review Commission included the variable plan as part of its multi-employer pension reform proposal that is expected to be presented to Congress this month. The case study illustrates the potential opportunities that labor unions have to redirect and redefine the retirement conversation in America. Unions are strategically positioned in both private and public sectors to influence and in many cases renegotiate the pension deal. Pension design innovation can offer unions the credibility and the leverage necessary to drive these conversations. I hope this paper stimulates more research into the role and actions that institutions and stakeholders play in transforming the U.S. retirement system. I would further encourage researchers to adopt a case study method if they want to reach and spark the imagination of practitioners who are grappling with such large and complex dilemmas like the transformation of our employer-based pension system over the next 20 years. Thank you.